I'd like to call this Town Council meeting to order on Monday, July 26th, 2021, at approximately 7:04 p.m. Let's please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councillor Adams.
Present.
Councillor Catrona.
Excused.
Councillor Daniel.
Present.
Councillor Dow.
Excused.
Councillor Jovan.
Present.
Councillor Lazo. Absent. Councillor Marchetti.
Present.
Councillor Ryan.
Present.
And Councillor Steves.
Present.
Very good. We have 6 present. Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Yeah. Yep.
Agenda item number 3A, consider and accept the special town council meeting minutes of Monday, June 28th, 2021.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Any amendments, insertions? Council Steves.
I was not there, so I'll have to abstain, but as I recall from the video, agenda item number 3, there should be a roll call vote on the first vote that the council acting as hearing authority, blah, blah, blah. There should be a roll call vote.
On agenda item 3.
Yeah. Because I do remember that there were two distinct votes when I saw it on video, although I wasn't part of it.
Excuse me, Council Chair. I couldn't really hear. Are you saying it should have been a roll call vote?
And I think there should be a roll call vote listed for that, because you did take 2 votes.
It says down below, vote by roll call. Council's in favor. Adams, Catrona.
Yeah, for that particular item, but I think you did 2 roll calls.
I can check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going off that point, I do remember there was a couple of votes. There was one to declare that the order had been violated, and then there was the vote to take the dog away. Those were 2 separate votes.
I think a person was.
And then also in this one, in the under agenda item number 3, the vote following the recommendation of ACO Spencer that the Vegas not be awarded back to the dog. I voted against that motion, and I did not second that. So I don't even know who seconded, but it was not me. So.
Can you check on that as well?
Yep.
Very good. Okay, we'll come back to this then on when they're corrected and up to stuff. Okay, very good. 3B, consider and accept the town council reorganizational meeting minutes of Monday, July 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections, additions, deletions?
Oh, this one looks good.
Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous of all present. 3C, consider and accept the town council meeting minutes of Monday, July 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any deletions, corrections, insertions? Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through your agenda item number 5, under the second filled-in bullet, under capital improvement plan, I believe for the evaluation tool committee, Councilor Dow was also asked to be on there as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh. And I also expressed interest in the town manager evaluation.
And add Councilor Steves to that as well. Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, just going through just a bit of procedural wording. On number 9, the Dutchman vote, I didn't abstain, I was recused. There is a procedural difference.
Correct.
So anytime someone recuses themselves, it's different than abstaining. So I just wanted that reflected in the record. I was recused from the vote.
Anyone else? Mary, all set?
Yep, got it.
Very good. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Unanimous of all present. Subcommittee reports. General Government, Councilor Steves.
We haven't had any meetings, and we have nothing scheduled.
Very good. Department of Public Works, Councilor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We haven't had any meetings, but we'll be scheduling one pretty soon. Thank you.
Very good. Education and Human Services, Councilor Catrona is absent. Planning and Development, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. There has been none since our last meeting, and I do have one scheduled in the next 2 weeks. Thank you.
Very good. Protection of Persons and Property, Councilor Lazo, he's absent, so we'll move on from there. Agenda item number 5, Councilor announcements. I'd like to announce the subcommittee and ad hoc committee memberships effective tonight. For DPW, Councilors Marquetti, Dow, and Steves, with Councilor Marquetti as chairperson. For EHS, Councilors Jovan, Catrona, and Ryan, with Councilor Jovan as chairperson. For General Government, Councilors Ryan, Marquetti, and Steves, with Councilor Ryan as chairperson. For P&D, Councilors Adams, Dow, and Lazo, with Councilor Adams as chairperson. And for PPP, Councilors Lazo, Catrona, and Jovan, with Councilor Lazo as chairperson. For the ad hoc committee on the town manager evaluation for year 1, there'll be Councilors Adams, Catrona, and Ryan, with Councilor Adams as chairperson. And for the committee on developing a capital plan format, Councilors Marquetti, Dow, and Lazo, with Councilor Marquetti as chairman. Okay, further announcements. There's been a lot of discussion over the course of time going on about activities in Southbridge and whether there is a lot of them or not, or a lack of them. And just for tonight, I wanted to list 3 activities just to give people a sense as to what is going on in town. We are a very vibrant town. There's a lot happening, and at the risk of leaving people out, which I don't want to do, but just coming up with a few. The Ruth H. Wells Center for the Arts is sponsoring a children's summer art camp. This is for ages 6 to 16. This is to be held in early August. For more information, call 508-764-3341. The Concerts on the Common series will have performances on our town common from 6 to 8 p.m. every Sunday evening in August. For more information, see the recreation link on the town website. The Gateway Players are back and running strong. Their performance is scheduled for August, October, and December. For tickets and information, call 508-764-4531. I am not looking to exclude anyone. This is a very limited list. There's a lot going on in town, and I certainly would welcome people contacting me or any other council to let us know about this so we can publicize the events and get people to go. As I said earlier, we are a very vibrant town. There really is a lot going on. There are a lot of different ways that these events get advertised, and I certainly would like to see the council help out in any way possible to get this information out to our townsfolk. Last but not least, paving in town started today. The paving plan is available on social media postings. If you don't have access to social media postings, it is published on the town website at www.ci.southbridge.ma.us. And the website will give you a list of the roads that are being effective and roughly when they're going to be affected as well. And that's all I have for councilors, for chairman's announcements. Agenda item number 6, town manager's announcements.
Good evening, council members, Chairman Daniel. I just wanted to bring up a couple of quick items. As we've talked about in the past, this coming Thursday, July 29th at 6:30, the Department of Environmental Protection will be having its public comment session. It's virtual on the proposed liquid natural gas plant for Charlton right off of 169. The details for the login for the virtual hearing are posted on our website. You should be able to get it off the main page. There has been some concern, it's been brought up around town, that we've had a slight uptick in the number of COVID cases. We're continuing to monitor that, but I wanted to make everybody aware that you can still get vaccinated. I spoke with Harrington Hospital earlier this week. If you go to their website at www.harringtonhospital.org, you can get information right from that page. They are currently handling walk-in vaccinations at 164 South Street, and their hours of operation are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to 3:30 p.m. This week, we also met with the Fire Station Building Committee. I don't want to take away too much from Councilor Jovan, but we are continuing to make progress in the planning stages for many of the public procurement documents that we need to go out to start the process to advance that project. Ms. Dean and I participated recently in a regional discussion regarding distribution centers and their impact on the area. As many of you know, there's going to be some large storage warehouse facilities coming along Route 20. And pursuant to that, we both made attempts to reach some of the spokespersons or contacts with Amazon. We were successful. As a matter of fact, today we set up a meeting for later this week so we can begin to talk, just like we're talking with the folks at the LNG plant. I have another meeting with them via telephone tomorrow to ensure that we can get whatever mitigation or benefits that some of the other communities can, to the extent we are that far removed. But for traffic, for training, for our first responders, if they have to go to a large, gosh forbid, a disaster at the LNG or a fire at one of those large plants, if we need specialized training, those are the types of things we're looking to get, and also how to deal with any residual traffic from some of these establishments. And lastly, we're still working with Senator Fatman's staff, as well as the Consumer Protection and Professional Licensure Committee. Councilor Adams has been involved with that. We've been working with the draft for the home rule petition to get the additional liquor licenses, and it appears that we've reached a satisfactory draft, which they're going to advance through the committee process, and hopefully we should hear soon. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Council, agenda item number 7, a presentation tonight. We have an update from the Charter Review Committee. I believe former Council Chair Clements will be leading the discussion.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for having us here this evening. It was requested that we give you an update, and we're happy to do that. I am just here representing the group that we have. We currently don't have a chair that exists. We just share the responsibilities of the 4 of us. To that note, Yvonne Tortoise is part of our committee, as well as Pamela Duke, Andrew Murch, and myself. All of these members have very diverse amounts of town government experience, served on many committees, held office, or hold jobs that certainly are related to town government. So we're very fortunate to have great discussions in regard to the charter. So let's see, our first meeting of the Charter Review Committee was held on October 27th, 2020, in the conference room at the Southbridge Airport. Members were provided copies of the current town charter with revisions through 2016, the original charter with revision dates through January of 1998, and the council rules and regulations for guidance. We now meet in the George Parent Room at the Town Hall. All meetings have been posted in accordance with open meeting laws and held in person in accordance with COVID guidelines. One meeting included a call from myself when I could not attend. I did not vote at that meeting. I just listened in on the phone conversation. Overall, the committee has met 16 times, generally on a bi-weekly schedule beginning at either 6 or 6:30 p.m., averaging 2 to 3 hours each time. Since January of 2021, the committee has had a total of 12 meetings. There was a brief period between April 20th and June 6th where we were held off due to a change in members and the resignation of one of our members. All meetings have been recorded with the help from our cable office staff, and they are currently available on Channel 192 and Southbridge Community Television YouTube. We're very grateful for that. Even during the COVID time, they were able to come and set up the camera at the airport for us. We used that room as it was a larger room in case we had people who could come in to accommodate open meeting laws. So we do thank the community television for that. Let's see, minutes of all of our meetings have been taken by Member Tortoise, and she has posted all approved minutes to the town website. We have had two additional attendees to discuss their concerns on relevant charter areas. Councilor Dave Adams came in to discuss memorials and such, and the town manager, Mr. McCall, came to discuss different policies that he would like us to make sure we take a look at. Some we already knew, transfer policy, meeting attendance, different things like that. So we are very grateful for these people who have come to voice their concerns, and we take them very seriously. We've also received written and emailed comments. Councilor Steves was one of those, and we have taken all into consideration during our discussions. Our review has taken many aspects of current policies, procedures, legalities, and historical perspective into account. We look at grammatical structure as well as the content and context of what exists in the current charter to determine what we may propose to council. We consider the technology of the 21st century and how this can affect charter, while keeping the foundation of our charter intact. We have flagged several sections of the charter that we will readdress after our first read-through of the entire document. We have a number of those, I think probably a dozen, but we do try to work through as best as possible areas of concern, and we always try to look for unanimous consent on any suggestions that we're going to put forth to council. We find it very important that everybody has that equal say and equal understanding as to what one or more might be proposing. Let's see, we will seek further input from those directly affected, state government, and other resources available to us before we recommend any changes to council. There are things, even just local town council, as to, for instance, quasi-judicial boards. That was one area being flagged in terms of removal of quasi-judicial members, that type of thing. That has come up. Areas that have come up in the past over all of our experiences, we look at that in the context and charter to see, what questions were asked because they didn't quite, people had different interpretations, and that's not, our main focus is clarity. It's been our number one goal, that you can read the words and understand without ambiguity. So we're trying to, move that along and then provide to you what we find. At our next meeting, we will continue reviewing Chapter 10, Section 8-2. The charter consists of 14 chapters, the last being Charter Commission's notes. Always very important. That comes from, the past, and it's, well, we have to look at the past and see what people were intending back at the beginning of time, but of course take into fact how things have changed, how workings of government have changed, and to try to put that all together, as we said, without undervaluing the integrity of the charter and what the people voted on originally. And of course, we obviously know that any recommendations or anything that goes forward, the intention would always be to bring it back to a vote of the people. And that's what was done in the past, even when the government agrees, even when our state representatives and such agree to our changes, it's always important to back it up by vote of the people. Let's see. So we look forward to presenting and discussing our full charter review recommendations with the council. At the completion of the review process, we will present a full copy of charter with strikeouts and suggested recommendations in red ink to each councilor. So we're not going to just present you with something new that you have no idea what was there. It is also our intent going forward, as the state does, we would like to recommend that any future changes to charter or any decisions you decide to make, that we can keep that type of strikeout in there, because that's what the state documents do, and that technically is what it says that we're supposed to do when you change important documents, because going back to find out, we're reviewing the old charter, the oldest charter, to say, well, how come that was in there for agreeing to the budget, and yet it's not in ours anymore? And sometimes what was in there made perfect sense legally, and yet it's not applicable, it's gone, it's just vanished out of the charter. So we want to make sure that people are aware of what we propose, what's there, and what remains for the future generations. 5 years from now or whenever the next one comes up, you'll have some understanding of what happened this time. So I think that's pretty much it that I have. If you have any questions or comments, we're open to it. Mrs. Tortoise is here as well, and she's going to hand you a copy of what, mostly what I read, and not what I improvised on. So if anyone, you're always welcome to attend a meeting.
Councilor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I happened to watch a meeting on cable access today. I was watching, and it seemed to me like there was like a common theme during the meeting that I was watching, that you want to try and, how do I put it, I want to change appropriation authority, make it easier for the town manager to spend money without the town council's input. And the charter clearly says that all appropriation authority is vested in the town council. So no matter what he spends, we have to know about it. We have to approve it or not approve it. And I was just wondering, is it your plan to try and change that so the town manager does not have to come to us for spending authority, or it just seemed like a common theme throughout the meeting. I think one of the members made a comment about how he shouldn't have to come to us to spend $50 on the senior center exercise, and my own feeling is he should come to us for every dollar that he spends. But I was just wondering if that's the direction that you are going with the committee. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Marchetti, for bringing that particular item up. I'm recalling that I had a feeling you were talking about Mrs. LeDuc's comments too, and all of us, I think, talked a lot about that. And that was one of the issues that came up that Mr. McCall brought to us. But it hasn't just come up with Mr. McCall. It's come up with many previous, a number of, I won't say many, a number of previous managers. I believe also in the full context of like Ms. LeDuc's comments is that you vote on a budget, you appropriate the money, you put something in, it's all voted within the budget completely. That is council's authority. Absolutely, that will never be taken away to vote the budget and how the money gets spent, to appropriate that money to be spent a certain way. However, when it comes time sometimes to transfer something, that transfer has usually been the problem. Even Councilor, at the time, Chairman Jovan brought that up in our first meeting. It's in our minutes, talking about that transfer situation of small amounts. So if you're talking about an item that is in, for instance, I know they said $50 to transfer for somebody doing exercise class, but actually that's usually in the budget of how they're spending, how we're spending the money anyway. So I would imagine that's just being appropriated as that line item for exercise. Or I remember that vote on that in the past. So I'm saying you don't take that original appropriation away, but at times if there's $50 left because she didn't do a class and they needed some more copy paper, it seems kind of silly to come to council to spend the $50 that was part of the community center's overall budget for $50 in copy paper, at least in my opinion. It could be the other member's opinion as well. So I think what we're trying to do is find the happy medium that the council appropriates this money. They spend $58 million or whatever it is, and you tell everybody what to do with it. Now, you don't want somebody, and I've always said that, you don't want somebody saying, geez, this is an extra $5,000, maybe I'll buy a forklift. Oh, but I'll just need $5,000 from here and $5,000 from there. We had that problem, and there was no accountability to it. Okay? So I agree that there should be limits to everything that gets spent. But I also think in the fairness of technology and the way the world works, how quickly things change, having to wait for a meeting for, a $5 transfer or a $50 transfer might be just a little overkill. Again, my opinion, but I don't want to speak for everybody. I know generally I think we do agree on that. Again, my opinion. And whatever's going to come to council, come to a meeting and talk about that. I don't want to take all powers away from council. I don't believe in that. I believe council is the authority for spending the town's money. But I think there's a better way to manage the spending of the town's money if you've already agreed to it. Why are you double voting on something or triple voting or whatever it turns out to be? Unless it's, again, within a parameter. You have to have parameters on any job. You have to have oversight. You are the oversight to the town manager. There's no doubt to that. Do you exercise it all the time? Only in my experience, I would say council does not always exercise that. I wish, in my experience, I'm not talking about you. Okay, so how can that be made clear? No ambiguity, no distortion as to how it should be, yet functional and the best for this community. We're going to present some suggestions probably. You're all going to decide what you're going to do with it. Take it, leave it, cut it out, send it to the state, throw it in the trash can. You have the power to do any of that. We hope that you'll see some of the positive stuff that we see and what's been going on. We do. If you watch those meetings that last 3 hours sometimes, we try to have a good time, but it's also very serious. We take each word. Should we use shall or may, right? Is that really gonna, what's the context? And we've had those problems. We read charter and go, oh, I remember. Not just me, everybody says it, So we really, and Andrew's a different perspective. He's on other committees, he wasn't on council, but he's on school committee and he's on the redevelopment authority. So it's kind of neat to get the perspective. And Yvonne, Ms. Tortoise, she's worked with these types of things for years. So it's good to bring it all together. And of course, Pam is a in charge over at Wales, you know, she does her job there, so she's been very important in how other communities work, so. Anyway, I'm sorry, apologize.
It's all right.
I just didn't want you thinking it was our intent to do something specific. It's not. It's our intent to do the best we can, and you can do whatever you want with it.
All right, thank you. I'm set, thank you.
Is that, anyone else? Councilor Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to take a moment. Watched most of them, if not all of the meetings. I won't say I've definitely watched all. I definitely might have missed one or two, but I've watched the majority. You guys have done some really good work, in particular on that issue, on that issue around the transfers. That's something we've been dealing with, I want to say, since I've been involved in local government here, it's been something that's been on our plate, so.
That one's not done, so that one has a lot of work, that's our big flagged one to really attack in a probably a 3-hour session.
And that's a big thing to tackle, so I commend the committee and its members for doing its work. I know you, Yvonne, and Pam have really been a huge bulk work. I've seen you guys don't miss a meeting. You guys are always there chugging and getting the work done, so thank you, and thank you for everything you're doing to make this community better.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Just as Councilor Marquetti asked I think, appropriate question on that, and I know I look forward to that discussion down the road because I think we need to have that, but it's interesting if anybody watches these meetings or goes to one of these meetings, a sentence can turn into 3-hour discussions. Can you hear me okay? Sorry. Make sure.
You're getting a little light.
Got it, okay. But at the end, I just want to say thank you to all the volunteers that are doing it. You know, you don't have to do this. This is on your own time, and you're just trying to make the town and the constitution, in a sense, of our town better and to adapt to the needs of the town today, not from yesterday. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think everybody comes with a very sincere desire to just, get the job done and in a way that works for the community.
Councilor Jove?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you all for the hard work, and I know I appointed a very strong committee, so thank you for all the work that you've done. Going back to just a quick question on the notes, where you saw changes in the charter from the original version to what we currently have. Have you been able to recreate some of the things that were in the original charter to try to figure out why they changed? Or are you still researching that? Because I think this budget transfer policy is probably one of them as well. Because if you look back at the original language of the transfer policy, it was much different than what we currently have. Maybe much different is strong, but there are key differences. And in talking to former finance director John LaFleche, who worked for the town, and what the process they had and what we have now is quite different. So have you been able to find out any information on that, or is that something that you'll bring to the table as you work through that?
You can say something if you'd like.
We've been researching with the town clerk's office to get the old charter, the changes to be able to compare the two, and we're just starting to go through that process now. So
Okay,
at our next meeting, we have a few agenda of those items to look at and see, because nothing in the charter shows you what was there before and how we're presenting it now and what we'd like to see. So by getting all those changes individually by section, we're hoping to compare all of them and see where they changed and why.
Yeah, thank you. And I do appreciate Council Marquetti's question and concerns. And I think if we all work together, we can come up with a sensible solution to that issue, to not usurp any authority that the town council has, but also to be able to provide government to have an efficient flow of business as well. So I look forward to working with you on that topic.
Yeah, that's, the town clerk had said that she could go back and find the minutes and different things to the previous meetings, which, I mean, it's ancient, so they had to kind of dig deep, but I know that Yvonne is going to be working through those to see if she can pull out. The other one was the budget approval, right, that there's a vote. Pam, Ms. Ludick was asking about why is, there's a, the question, yeah, let's see, increasing the proposed budget, but it doesn't say they're required to balance it. And it's interesting, we went back, so if you're at that final meeting and you suddenly say, hey, we're going to increase it, well, where's the money come from? What happened to that? How did you can do this according to charter, but there's no appropriation, there's no way to get that money, to fund that money. So we questioned that, and we look back at the old charter, and there's the verbiage. That's the verbiage that should be here. You have to have a means for it, too. It should state, you can do this as long as you've got some money for it. You can't just say to the town manager, this is what we want, we're going to vote it in. It has to make sense. So we have found inconsistencies or curiosities as to why things aren't where they should be, and how maybe some things should be back. So it's been interesting to put them side by side.
We all agree that the charter, sometimes when you look at it, it's interpreted different ways by different councilors, people, whatever. And our goal is to make it transparent so that when you look at it, you know exactly what it is that the charter says. And sometimes that hasn't been there, and that's why we're looking at these things, not to change everything necessarily, but to make it more transparent. And the four of us agree with that. That's our goal. And that's why we flag these things, so we can research them and go back and make sure that we present the best for the town.
Sometimes it's just an and, or a shall versus a may, but that's all it might be that we throw on, so. And again, in the end, it's really, you guys decide if it's clear, and you vote on it, to do whatever you want with it, so.
Anyone else?
But thank you for the opportunity to serve the town and do that. So, right.
Okay. I'd like to thank the committee for their hard work. It is hard work, but it's good work. And I know there's still more to go, so I appreciate what you folks are doing. It's really good for the town, so thank you. Okay. Agenda item number 8, Citizens Forum. Are there any citizens present that would like to address the council on any issues that are not on the agenda item this evening?
Hi, Maureen Doyle, 771 Lebanon Hill Road. I don't think this is on the agenda, but I haven't looked at the agenda, I'll be honest. But when I went to pay my property tax, which is due on Monday, I believe, it said you can send it to the town of Southbridge at P.O. Box 428, Worcester. Previously, it was you could send it to Southbridge. Now, I know you can drop it off and all that stuff. My point is, why are we outsourcing our tax collector? Because the tax collector, according to the 2020 budget, has a salary of $106,000. Why can't she handle it? Previous tax collector offices could handle it. And I don't think the population of Southbridge has gone up that much. The current listing is from the 2010 census. I don't know why they don't have the 2020, but, you know, whatever. So it's 16,000 and some change people. I can't imagine that we've had a huge increase in people that would make the tax collector office not be able to handle that. I just don't understand. And as a taxpayer, I want to look out for the nickel and diming of this town, and I see that as nickel and diming. They're paying for a P.O. box, they're outsourcing the service. I would just like some answers.
Councilor Ryan?
I believe we discussed this at the beginning of the cycle, that we were going to be having some bill payments sent out to another facility to process them, correct? Didn't Melissa come in front of the council and explain that because of the peak season and them wanting to be on top of making sure everything got done and processed at the correct time, that they had some help outsourcing during the high.
So how much is this outsourcing costing the taxpayers? You know? I mean, we have a staff here.
Well, I think we can look into that, and we'll get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for
Very good. Is there anyone else? Seeing no one else, agenda item number 9, Vote to amend the town council minutes of June 28, 2021, agenda item number 32 as follows. What I'll do is I'll read what is not being amended, then I'll read what is being struck out, and then I'll read what is being amended into the minutes. Do I have a
So moved.
Second.
first and a second? Thank you. Okay. What is not being struck out? What will remain? Agenda item number 32, vote to ratify the contract with J.H. Lynch & Sons Incorporated to install rectangular rapid flashing beacons for $221,540.42, using the remaining $188,799.46 in shared street funds and $32,740.96 from the DPW number 63570 fiscal 16 sidewalk repairs, and allow the town manager to sign any related paperwork. A motion was made by Councilor Catrona, seconded by Councilor Ryan, to vote on this item. Ms. Dean said they've pursued the funding over the past and summarized the bid process and the scope of work. The sidewalk funds are available to use, which is what DPW is suggesting, since they are short a little over $81,000. She said the shared street funding needs to be used by November. Councilor Lazo supports the beacons, but not the funding, since he doesn't believe they should be taken out of the sidewalk fund. Ms. Blakely said some of the sidewalk locations need to be updated to be ADA compliant, which is where this money will go to the installation and updating and part of this. What will be deleted is as follows. Councilor Lazo changed his mind and will support this item. Motion to amend the amount of $42,443.01 made by Councilor Lazo, seconded by Councilor Lazo. Vote by show of hands, all in favor. By 7-0, the motion carries. Motion to add $81,644.35 from the stabilization account to the number 63570 fiscal year 16 sidewalk account, made by Councilor Lazo, seconded by Councilor Lazo. Vote by show of hands, all in favor. By 7-0, the motion carries. Vote on the motion as amended. Vote by roll call. Adams, Daniel, Catrona, Jovan, Lazo, Marquetti, Ryan. By 7-0, the motion carries. Okay, that previous section will be deleted. Amended into the minutes and inserted will be the following. There was further discussion relating to the original bids and the two alternates that were part of the bid package that would need to be funded at the total price of $301,706.82. The two areas involved in the bid were sidewalk and handicapped access, as well as beacons for Charlton Street School and Eastford Road School. Based on safety factors discussed by the council, several amendments were entertained to include these areas, as the contractor would be on site and it would be more costly to complete this work in the future. Ms. Blakely confirmed that the sidewalk account that we are using did have additional monies that could be used for this project. Councilor Lazo indicated that given the sidewalks would be improved in these areas, he would support using these funds, and the following amendments were entertained and voted on. A, motion to amend the DPW number 63570 fiscal year 16 sidewalk repairs amount from $32,740.96 to $42,443.01, made by Councilor Ryan, seconded by Councilor Lazo. Motion to further amend and fund the project by taking the initial amount of, and this is a typo, so the proper amount is $81,644.25 from stabilization account, made by Councilor Ryan, seconded by Councilor Lazo. Vote on the main motion as amended. Vote to ratify the J.H. Lynch & Sons Incorporated contract in the total amount of $301,706.82, with $42,443.01 from DPW project number 63570 fiscal year 16 sidewalk repairs, and a balance of $81,644.25 from stabilization, and allow the town manager to sign any related paperwork. Chairman requested a roll call vote due to the use of stabilization funds. Adams, Daniel, Catrona, Jovan, Lazo, Marquetti, Ryan, all voted in the affirmative. By 7-0, the motion carries. Any discussion? Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the fellow councilors here. This came about as I got a call as I was the chairman at that last meeting that they needed clarification in the finance office to determine, because the minutes were not clear about exactly where the appropriations were coming from and the changes in the appropriation. So therefore, Peg Dean in the CDBG office had requested, because Ms. Harnois in the finance department would not sign the contract or allow the contract to be signed because it was not clear in our minutes as to where the appropriations were coming from. So I drafted the amendment to try to articulate exactly what transpired. I believe that's as close as I could get because there was a lot of things thrown about that evening, but I believe this is as close as I could get to what we agreed upon and what was in fact happened that evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Councilor Steves?
I'll have to abstain on this one as well since I was not at the meeting, but shouldn't there also be votes for the two motions to amend?
There are two votes.
Huh?
There are two votes.
There aren't any.
Oh, they weren't in there?
Votes for items A and B.
Oh, yeah. You are correct,
There were
yep.
votes later at the end.
Those were,
As I recall, those were unanimous votes.
yes, they were. So if you want to add that,
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
thank you, Councilor Steves.
Okay, any further discussion?
So will I, since I seconded it.
You seconded it? Okay. Thank you, Councilor Adams. There being no further discussion, all those in favor?
Abstain.
And one abstention. 501. Agenda item number 10, discuss and vote to approve the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission's Regional Public Health Shared Services Grant.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Pelletier.
Good morning, members of the council. First, I want to thank you for hearing this tonight. A series of unfortunate events. I had to run this parallel through the Board of Health and the council. I wanted to do it with the Board of Health first. So I do appreciate you hearing this without the intermediate steps. CMRPC approached South Central Massachusetts Boards of Health with an opportunity to get in on a grant. CMRPC is going to be holding the grant. They have actually already received approval from the state of Massachusetts, but the grant is a shared services grant. It grew out of the cooperation that a lot of public health departments had through COVID. As you are aware, South Central, or you are probably aware, South Central Massachusetts had an amazing cooperation of public health with setting up, manning, and supplying the Harrington Clinic. We have a new appreciation of each other, and it would be unfortunate if we had to let that go because COVID's gone. So CMRPC approached South Central Mass, of which I believe 5 towns agreed to talk about this and consider it. They originally came to us and asked what type of shared services could the towns partake in. And a lot of the towns, there were a lot of the smaller towns, and Webster were looking for shared inspectional services. The Sturbridge and Southbridge both said we're really not interested in that. We have a full staff, and it's better for us to control the staff we have than to try to work with an outside force there. I stayed in the talks. I didn't walk away, Sturbridge did. But I stayed in the talks, and about 2 weeks later, I proposed that we, Southbridge might be interested in joining if they did an additional part to it that would include forward-thinking stuff. We're a very responsive department. We respond to complaints, we respond to blight, but we have some serious concerns in the town of Southbridge. I have always said that I want to bring this department proactive rather than reactive. And so I suggested that they put a person in place for beneficial programs. This person would work for all 5 of the towns that are still involved, and they would identify the needs of the towns of the whole region and then start some beneficial programs that would address those needs. So I would imagine this would start with a health assessment of the South Central Mass, and then identify like the 5 biggest concerns. I know I did one 7 years ago, and the 5 concerns were substance abuse, domestic abuse, poor housing. There were 2 others. Substance abuse, domestic abuse, poor housing, and the other 2 skip my mind at the moment. I'm sorry about that. I'm looking to get the council to join me and the Board of Health, who voted yes on this last Thursday, to support this. What we hope to do is, by joining this group, again, we'll go proactive, which this town has never seen before. I believe Mr. Marchetti, 2 meetings ago, said, if we are not going to do something about the conditions that are in Southbridge, then Southbridge is always going to have the same conditions. Not exactly the quote, but pretty much what you said at a meeting. It was either a budget meeting or recently. And I was kind of taken by that, yeah, we need to grab our own future. If we don't address the concerns, then I think we're always going to have the concerns. So I'm looking for an opportunity to go proactive rather than reactive, address some of the concerns in Southbridge. I'm optimistic this will work. In drafting this, I've worked really closely with the other communities. I have tried to protect Southbridge as best I could. So this is a $300,000 grant for 3 years in a row. The monies are managed by CMRPC, but Webster has stepped up and said that they would be the host agency for the employment of these 2 people. So Webster has taken on the responsibility of hiring them and covering their benefits through the grant. I was worried about an opt-out. If this didn't work for us, I said I need to get an opt-out in the clause. I'm not sure if I sent you a copy of the IMA, but the IMA has a 30-day notice and we can opt out at any time. There is a requirement for sustainability beyond the life of the grant. I envision that this proactive person will be able to attain sustainability through grant writing. There is a lot of grants for needy communities like Webster and Southbridge to address substance abuse. Substance abuse is very hot in grants right now, domestic abuse. So I believe we can sustain that part of it beyond the grants. I don't know if we can sustain the other part without losing permit fees or something like that. And very clearly, we wrote in that permit fees shall remain the ownership of the town that those permits are generated from. So I like the way it's written. I believe it lets us opt out of the whole thing. I also believe it lets us choose what we want to carry on beyond the grant. So I'm hoping that it's a well-written, because I had a lot of input into the IMA. It's been through the MIHA attorney, and it was also through, I'm not sure which attorney, but there was one municipal attorney who's already looked at it. The town of Auburn's attorney is looking at it now. So I'm looking for the council's support, initially a letter of commitment, and thereafter a agreement to the IMA, hoping that the council will vote on those tonight and authorize the town manager to bring the town of Southbridge into this by his endorsement of these 2 documents. Hope I presented that as good as I can, but I'm open to any questions.
Discussion. Councilor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I read over this memorandum, and the first thing that stood out to me was that Sturbridge and Charlton are not included in this at all. Apparently, they must have opted out. Maybe they didn't want to be included in this. So that was the first thing that jumped out at me. Sturbridge and Charlton are not involved in this. Then the more I read it, the more I realized, to me, it just looks like this is a inspector and a community health coordinator for the town of Webster, and apparently they're going to share their inspector with us. We have an inspector. I don't see why we would need an inspector. I personally don't see what the benefit to Southbridge this would be. The person that they hire, it looks to me like they're going to get a pretty good salary. They're going to get an iPad. They're going to get a car. And a lot of that money that's going to be spent here is coming out of this grant. And at some point, if the funding ends, according to this that I read, page 3, if the funding ends, then the town has to come up with the funding if they want to keep going with it. You said we have a 30-day leeway to get out of it, but in the meantime, we would have to pay if the funding ended. They would try to get more funding, but they can't guarantee that they would get more funding for this grant. So the more I read it, I mean, to say forward-thinking stuff, that doesn't really tell me what exactly this would do for us, except a new hire for the town of Webster is what it really is, in my opinion. So I don't think this is something that I think we should, in my own opinion, I don't think we should get involved in. To me, it's just more consultants, and we seem to get a lot of consulting, but what we really need are funds to, I think we can take care of our own problems here, but what we need is the funding, so that's all I have. Thank you.
If I may, from the day I started here, I have tried to bring programs to Southbridge that don't cost Southbridge monies. This is an opportunity to bring a program coordinator position, somebody who is going to take on our 5 top public health concerns with no out-of-pocket money from Southbridge. It's grant monies for the first 3 years. 6 months before this is up, the IMA calls for a review by the sitting board or the sitting oversight committee. And that committee, part of that committee's job is to find out sustainability. If we can't sustain it beyond the beyond the 3 years, then again, Southbridge has the option to opt out, not spending a dime, because up until that point, it's going to be 100% grant funded. I'm hoping to name one of my board members who's very interested in sitting on this, and myself, as the people who attend this. We will be very active in making sure that Southbridge's interests are looked at. It's an opportunity to put somebody in place who can start these programs. Well, and Mr. Marchetti, you must understand, because you are very astute to the spending of the dollars in this town. If we can put a program in place without committing Southbridge dollars to it, Southbridge is way ahead.
I'm good, thank you.
Councilor Steves, then Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So how much time would this person actually be spending in Southbridge? And how would they determine what, I think we all have a general idea of what the major issues in town are, but how would they determine what those are in terms of, where they stand now?
There is protocols for doing a health study, though there would be interviews. I haven't sat on this board yet. We haven't figured out how we're going to move forward yet. We just know what we need and what the towns need to proceed. But we will. I've done a health study in the town before with a college student, an intern. It was 7 years ago. He's the one that came up with the top 5 that Southbridge needed at that time. I would like to update that, and it would involve interviews with the police, interviews with the fire department, interviews with the town manager, obviously interviews with the Board of Health. Outside of that, interviews with Center of Hope, interviews with the Spectrum and
Harrington.
Right Health, like the one that's on Central Street, I'm not sure the name of that one, Harrington Hospital, all of our partners. That's how you determine what the needs are in a town. If a hospital is treating a ton of domestic abuse cases, or the police are answering a ton of domestic abuse cases, then we start to look at domestic abuse. It really comes out of the interviews and the study that this person will initially do in order to find out what the needs are of the individual towns, but the common needs of the 5 attending towns, because this person has to address the needs of all the towns.
So how much time do you expect to see this person actually spending on Southbridge issues directly?
I do not expect this person is going to spend any time on Southbridge issues. This person is going to spend time on issues that affect Southbridge, Brimfield, Dudley, Webster, Auburn. This person can't concentrate on one town's needs. It's going to have to concentrate on those needs that are common to all the towns, and thereby, by concentrating on those needs, at least affect a positive result out of all of the towns that are participating. So I can't break it down into this person's going to spend this much time here and this much time there and that much time there. She will spend full time addressing the needs, the common needs of the group, which will include Southbridge's needs.
This seems kind of like it overlaps with what the Chenal has been doing for years. I haven't seen much about how active they are at the moment, but they are still in exist. They do still exist, don't they?
What, who has been doing?
The Chenal group, the Chenal 5, they still exist, don't they?
Yes, they attempt to discuss what they need in the region, slightly bigger region, I believe.
Yeah.
And I can't speak to what they've accomplished. It may be duplicating. I would hope that part of this person's initial response would be to talk to the Chenal 5 and find out where they are and what they've accomplished so that we're not duplicating efforts. And again, I'll be sitting on the board, so I will direct that.
And doesn't Harrington do these kinds of health studies on a fairly regular basis?
Harrington did one 2 years before I came in. I did one 7 years ago,
Right.
and I haven't seen one since. So I don't know if Harrington's done a supplemental one or a further one. They haven't shared it with me.
Okay. Thanks.
Very good. Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So, basically, this is state money that's going to be used, not town money, right?
Correct.
This is something that's going to have some sort of governmental control because it's going to be an independent board that controls how this money is spent and how on the people hired, correct?
Each town will assign...
Has a representative, right?
Yes.
Yes, so like most regional committees. Okay. Is that that membership, is that going to be proportional voting for the members?
Each town gets one vote. There's a Board of Health member and an alternate from each town, but each town gets one vote. It's not population-based.
The only reason I ask is because I worry about the violating the principle of one man, one vote, in which you have to make sure that populations of towns are also considered. So just keep that in mind as something possibly to look into. But at the end of the day, and there's a 30-day, if we give them 30 days, we can opt out at any time, correct?
Sure.
So this is a win. Like, we're getting money from the state to help fund this position. This person is going to be coming in and helping do community and regional health. And we can opt out if it ever comes down to the point where we have to pay for it directly and we, as a community, decide we don't want to pay for it. This is a win. I intend to support this tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Adams, then Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make note, I believe one of the 5 was teen pregnancy as well.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what the last one was, though.
Teen
That's
pregnancy,
all I've got.
domestic abuse, housing, and asthma.
Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Pelletier. Thank you for the grant opportunities. It's always great to have grant opportunities and public health. So I certainly would support it. I would just want to make sure that we do keep eyes on, if we are awarded this grant funding, to make sure that we're not obligated if people change in different offices and there's no notice that says, hey, we have to opt out on that. So I want to make sure that we have some kind of tickler there somewhere in the computer that says, hey, by the state, we have to notify them that we don't. Is this different than the contact tracing grant from the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, the 300,000?
It is. I'm working with CMRPC on that one also. Okay. That one is if we need contact tracing into the fall, CTC is done as far as currently done, meaning this fall there'll be no more in September. If our cases continue to sit in 5, 6, and 7 a day, that is too much of a burden for us to handle. We will have the option to hire somebody to handle the contact tracing and go to CMRPC in a different grant and ask them to pay for the cost to do this contact tracing.
Okay. So I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So through you, as a follow-up, we're still pursuing the contact tracing grant?
Excuse me?
You're still pursuing the contact tracing grant? Are you doing
yes,
that?
Yes, there's several of them out there. I know Charlton received one of them. I chose to go with the CMRPC. He is working on getting that grant, as is Charlton and all the other ones. So hopefully that will come into fruition and we will have a means to an end should COVID spike again.
Can I ask a follow-up if I could?
Yep.
So are you saying that you're pursuing the contact tracing grant on your own?
No.
Or are you in a consortium with that as well?
I'm in a consortium with that. I believe there are 4 towns that are working with CMRPC. We don't want these groups to get too big on this thing because we don't want the monies to be sucked away. If we get a spike like we had last year, it won't take much to get rid of the 300,000 that CMRPC is reaching for. So I'm working with 4 other towns. I believe Charlton's in with Auburn, Charlton. I think they're in with 2 other towns. So we're trying to keep the group small. I had opportunity to get in with the Charlton one. Unfortunately, the timing was wrong on that one, and me and Jim missed each other. But I don't think Southbridge lost out because we do have a chance to get in on the CMRPC grant.
If I may, Mr. I just want to make sure we weren't talking about the same grant, because that was 300,000 too, so I was
There's two
getting a little
different,
confused on that.
2 different $300,000 grants.
And the last question I have through you to the town manager, do you have a recommendation for council on this grant? Have you reviewed any of this to give us a recommendation?
Through you, Chairman Daniel. I talked with Mr. Pelletier about this. In many regards, it's no different than some of the other grants that we apply for, like the SAFER grant, where we get guaranteed funding for a position for so many years, and it's incumbent upon us to work during that time period to find money in the budget if we wish to go forward, provided there isn't other monies out there. From what I understand, talking with Mr. Pelletier, these programs tend to have more grant money come up from time to time so that they continue the programs moving forward. When we apply for things like the SAFER grant, my understanding and has always been that you don't get additional monies for those types of things. But we do those in the best interest of the community. We apply for the SAFER grant knowing that, you know, the burden will be on us 3 years down the road, because we realize that we could use that skill set and the additional manpower, because the town, you know, does have needs. If we are able to get this position, at least for 3 years, and allow us to expand our services to the community, I think it can be a worthwhile endeavor. Again, as council has raised, we just have to ensure that if it comes up to a point where it's not going to be further funded, that we have an open discussion about whether or not that's something that we want to do going forward. And if it's not, then we can't fund that position after the initial 3 years.
Thank you. I'm all set.
Very good. Any further discussion? Council Steves?
Yeah, a quick follow-up question to that is, okay, so as I understand this 300,000 covers all of the towns that are participating. What exactly would Southbridge's share of this person's salary be? Do we have any idea?
There'll be 0% because it comes out of the grant. The
No,
grant fully funds it.
I mean, if it were eventually to become something that it would be a regional position that we would be partially funding, if it came to that point.
If the town,
Right now, it won't be, I
if
understand
the
that.
town chose to maintain the position beyond the 3 years, and if we couldn't get any further grant funding
Right.
beyond the 3 years, part of the requirement of the oversight board is to discuss sustainability.
Okay.
I don't know at this point, since the board doesn't exist yet, no discussions have been had yet. I don't know if we would talk population-based, every town gives an equal, I don't know how they would approach that. So coming closer towards the end of the grants, I can probably answer that question a lot clearer, but I wouldn't even know how they would discuss funding it at this point in time. And until the end of the grant, or until close to the end of the grant, I don't imagine it's a major factor until we actually have to look at those dollars and consider it.
Okay. That makes sense.
Very good. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Councilor Marquetti opposed. Motion passes.
Thank you, councilors.
Agenda item number 11, vote to confirm the police chief's recommendation to reappoint Police Auxiliary Officer John Calcagney, effective immediately through June 30, 2024, ethics and good standing.
So moved.
Second.
Good. Any discussion?
If I
Mr.
may,
McCall.
Council Daniel, Chairman Daniel, the question did come up earlier about the wording. As you know, or you may or may not know, Ms. Tortoise was away last week, and I was working with Kim Farron on this agenda. and the wording of these articles. I just want to relay to everybody here, it's quite clear from the charter that I am the appointing authority, and that the charter says that I have the authority to appoint the chief of police, and upon the chief's recommendation, a police department. And there was some question as to wording, because the way these three agenda items, 11, 12, and 13, it says to confirm the police chief's recommendation to reappoint. So I don't know that you necessarily have to amend these. I think you could if you so choose, but the charter speaks, it's very clear to it that I make the appointment based on the chief's recommendation, and the chief and I have talked numerous times about staffing and the people that come through for initial appointment as well as reappointment, and I have the utmost confidence in his ability to gauge these folks, and our office has been making sure that they've taken their ethics, anybody who's up for a new committee, so I have no problem with the recommendations made by Chief Woodson for those three items. But I didn't, again, just for clarification, that it is not the chief that's the appointing authority, it's the manager, and he makes the recommendation, and then I seek your ratification for the reappointments.
Very good. Councilor Chauvin.
Yeah, typically, just to the town manager's point, normally there wouldn't be the police chief's recommendation or the town manager's recommendation. The agenda item typically would have just read, vote to confirm the reappointment of police officer auxiliary.
Sure.
Typically, there is no wording in those agenda items that says because it is the appointment of, and then we defer to the town manager to say, this is his recommendation or the police chief's recommendation. So simply those agenda items going forward should just be vote to confirm
Very good.
the appointment of, for clarification purposes.
Thank you. Any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor? Unanimous of all present. Item number 12, vote to confirm the police chief's recommendation to reappoint police auxiliary officer Hector Melendez effective immediately through June 30, 2024, ethics and good standing.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? No. Unanimous of all present. Item number 13, vote to confirm the police chief's recommendation to reappoint police auxiliary officer Donald Zamus effective immediately through June 30, 2024, ethics and good standing.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous of all present. Item 14, vote to confirm the appointment of Kevin Christo to the Board of Registrars effective immediately through June 30, 2024, ethics and good standing.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Council Steves.
Just one quick question through you to the manager. Because this board only has 3 members, and if we're appointing numbers 14 and 15, both to this board with expiration dates in the same year, shouldn't we be staggering these years? Because the only other person on that board is Maddie, and she's permanent.
Wouldn't that be, oh, sorry.
The only thing I could suggest, and not without speaking to Clerk Bonadis, would be that you would amend one of those to be a year off. But I don't see a problem having them in the same year as long as we're doing it after the town election as well. But you have 2 people that are willing to serve. Sometimes it's hard to get qualified people who know. I don't have a problem with the reappointments. I just can't really answer the benefits of staggering them without speaking to the clerk.
Okay, and also curiously that particular year is also a presidential election year too, so.
The only thing I could suggest is if, that the answer to that question is going to make the difference in your vote this evening, that we could just table these and we could bring the clerk in, maybe move it to the beginning of the agenda. It's my understanding we may be having a meeting early in August. We could do it that way. It's up to you. The only thing would be if their term is expired, I don't see that we would need anything for a registrar in the next week or so. Probably can't do much since the beginning of July, but It's your pleasure, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, according to the charter, the terms of the members of such boards and commissions shall be staggered. So that answers your question.
Shall be
Staggered.
staggered. All right. Then why don't we table this? And we'll bring it up again in the near future.
Do we need a motion for that, Mr. Chair?
Yes, we do.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling?
Tabling or postpone?
Postpone.
My mistake, I'm sorry.
Postponing items 14 and 15.
Very good. Unanimous. Okay. That moves us to item number 16, Council's Forum. Councilor Ryan.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually don't have anything tonight.
All set?
Yep.
Very good. Councilor Steves.
I don't have anything either, since you actually mentioned what I was going to say earlier. So,
Okay, very good. Councilor Jovan.
I'm all set, Presume. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. My questions are to the town manager. I did receive the email this week that we are getting the airport grant, and we aren't required to put in 5%, which is good news. It's great news. I'm glad to see that. However, the email from you said that we were getting $7,027,024. The original grant that we voted on in February was for $7,690,000. So my question is, there's a difference there of $662,976. So is Stantec going to do the project of the airport for the grant that we are getting now for $7 million, as opposed to the $7,690,000 that we voted on in February? That would be my first question.
Through you, Chairman Daniels, to Councilor Marquetti. So we got this notification last week. I had an email exchange with John Henry at Stantec, as well as Rick Clemens of the Airport Commission. I did have a telephone conversation. What was my understanding after that was that the bids came in lower, so that made the difference here. So the way I'm reading, we pulled the minutes from earlier this year when we applied for, we will have to come back in and seek approval to accept that grant. So we're going to be putting that on an upcoming agenda. So
Thank you.
if you want, if you need additional information, just let me know and I can have it for that meeting, or somebody to come in and speak on it if you want.
And if I could follow up through the chairman, do you think it would be a good idea to vote to put the money back into, I think we took it out of free cash. We did vote to take it out of free cash. And do you think it would be a good idea to vote to put the money back into free cash? I mean, I'm presuming we never took the money out, but we did vote to take the money out. So I'm thinking maybe we should vote to put the money back in. And I'll leave that up to you if you want. You don't have to answer that right now, but if you want to look into it, I would appreciate it. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the road improvement plan through you to the town manager. I see that it is posted on the town's website, and also Vice Chairman Adams posted it on social media. And all those roads that are being done are all mill and overlay. But I know that we signed a contract back in, I have it here somewhere. We signed a contract to have not just mill and overlay, but also crack sealing, fog sealing, micro surfacing. And
there's two separate contracts.
the company that bid on that job, Indus, they included crack sealing, fog sealing, micro surfacing. And I had asked about that once before, and the DPW director said that they have a year to work on it, but it's, I know a lot of residents in town, they want the roads fixed now, this summer, not wait a year from now. I went back and looked at the contract that we signed, that we voted on in February, and it was, the contractor shall commence the work under this contract within 5 days of the date of execution of this contract. I'm not saying that they haven't done any work, it's just that I have not seen a lot of work being done yet on all these other issues. And believe me, I am really happy that mill and overlay is being done now this week. I think that that was a partial list. There are a lot more roads that are on the list that you sent me that need to be worked on. And then there's all these other things that need to be worked on as well, not just mill and overlay. So I'd appreciate it if we could at least look into that and get some of that started as soon as possible. I especially don't want to wait until November to start these jobs like we did with some of those streets last year. And finally, I just want to mention, I know it's another 2 years out, but I do think we need to start talking about the curbside garbage collection. A lot of residents, I think, are expecting that the curbside garbage collection remain the way it is right now. It's just a matter of this council deciding how are we going to fund it, what type of collection are we going to provide. I know it's a couple years out, but I do think we should start talking about it because at Councilor Adams' curbside meetings, some of the contractors that came in said that you should start looking into it at least a couple years out, I think. At least a year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or 2 years, so it's something that we probably should start looking at.
Thank you for bringing that up. We are going to look at it.
Okay, thank you.
We're trying to hit the road running here.
All right,
So we're
thank you.
taking care of some immediate stuff first, and then we're going to go right into it. Believe
Okay.
me, that's definitely on the list.
All right, thank you.
Great.
And I don't mean to sound too negative. I'm really happy that the roads are being fixed, and I'm happy we got the money for the airport. I just like to make sure that what we say is going on is actually going on, and the money we're getting is the money we're getting, so thank you. That's all I
Very good.
have, thank you.
Mr. McCall.
Just through you, Mr. Chairman, Councilor Marquetti, yes, my plan was to speak to Ms. Harnois. My recollection was the application for the grant, that appropriation was contingent on us getting the grant. At the time, it was, I believe, free cash, and the question would be whether it goes to free cash or into stabilization. So I was planning to get that question answered, for one. Two, the last email that I received last week, and I thought I may have forwarded it to you folks, was that the crack ceiling and things had started as of Wednesday, July 21st, last week. We can get an update. Obviously, I don't have the DPW director here this evening, but I know we have an upcoming early August meeting, we can try to get a quick update if that would work for you. And lastly, the whole trash issue is not lost on me. If you were to ask my wife, she would tell you when I go on walks, I'm constantly thinking, how are we going to juggle all these things? Because I fully appreciate that has to happen out a couple of years out, and I know I've talked about it. I'd like to be in place to maybe even have a non-binding question on one of the upcoming elections, maybe to get some guidance. But I have already talked to some communities about getting RFPs of how they did trash collection, and I've just been doing some of that in the background. We haven't really started to put the throttle on it, as I think all of you realize that we have to pretty soon. But I think we should be underway, having some direction by next spring. It'll be concurrent with the budget and all the other things, and we have the fire station. I knew when I came here there was going to be a lot of challenges. It's interesting, but I think we can do them. I wouldn't have come here if I didn't think we could work together on all these things. And they're all big ticket items in the sense that it requires a lot of work, and it's going to require some creativity on all of our parts. But it hasn't been lost on me that it's coming up.
Right. Councilor Ryan, you had something to add?
Yes, actually, this topic made me think of something. I just wanted to thank everybody in particular around that, involved with the development of that, or putting in of that sign at the crosswalk between Renner Center and across Main Street there. It's the one that's was not previously had the walk button signs. It was that loose one, and cars just had to be careful and watch for people. I like the fact that we put those flashing red, flashing orange lights there now to let people know that the crosswalk is being used. It's a lot safer. Cars actually slow down now. I notice during the day, in particular when it's busy, it's much safer for me to walk across than before, where it's kind of playing a little bit of like, are they gonna see me? Are they gonna not see me? Are they just gonna zoom on by? But no, it's much safer, and that was a huge improvement, and that directly affected me, and I'm sure it's directly affected others. So thank you.
Okay, Councilor Steves?
If I can add something to that she just made me think of, that same intersection, can we tweak the duration of those crosswalks a little bit longer? Because last time I checked, I think it's only like 7 seconds. And originally they used to be 15. And the related issues that I've noticed that when you're crossing from the Zoe side to the bank side of Elm Street, the way the crosswalk lights works is it's right in the middle of the left turn lane. So you basically have to dodge left turn traffic coming in from Main Street to Elm Street. It's a little dangerous.
I understand your concerns, that they're valid concerns. I believe that Ms. Blakely is aware of these issues and is working with the engineers to see if further modifications need to be made. She made a point of specifically saying that it's a work in progress at this point, that they're not done. This is not a final project, that there is more to come.
Okay.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted I had roads down here as well, what Councilor Marchetti had brought up. I believe they started the crack sealing last week, and then they started doing the mill and overlay hopefully this week. But Councilor Marchetti already hit on some of the things that I had questions about, or at least wanted to discuss. Also, now that the subcommittees are set up, if you're interested, residents, in becoming a citizen member, please get your interest form into the town manager's office as soon as you can. That way these meetings will start kicking off very, very soon as needed. But if you're interested, please contact a counselor or the town manager's office, but the interest form has to go to the town manager's office first. So. And lastly is Saturday is Purple Heart Day. I just wanted to say this will be the first time this town has had one. We're not doing any ceremonies or anything like that, but we did buy the Purple Heart flags. They'll be raised above the Rotary, I believe the Honor Roll and the World War I monument in town for the day of Saturday. I just sat down with a 3-time Purple Heart recipient, not an awardee, but a recipient. Just the other day from Vietnam. He received those in combat in Vietnam, and it was a great conversation to be had for probably about an hour, just talking about things. So I want to thank the town councilors here, because you were here, I believe, everybody was here last year, and you guys voted on it. So thank you, and if you see those Purple Heart flags up, you'll know exactly what it's for on that day. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair. The next meeting is scheduled for August 2nd, 7 p.m. here in the dais.
Very good. And before we do adjourn, I'd just like to advise the various subcommittee chairs that August is shaping up to be a busy month, and to just please be aware we'll be needing you to have your meetings, your subcommittee meetings. So thank you very much about that. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.